Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Kevin. Today we're deep diving into something that might just be a game changer if you're living with an autoimmune condition, and that's creatine. Now I know what you might be thinking. Isn't creatine just for bodybuilders? Not even close. The research on creatine has exploded over the last decade, and what we're finding is absolutely fascinating, especially for people dealing with an autoimmune disease. This is going to be part one of a two-part series. Today we're covering what creatine is, how it works as an energy buffer, and its incredible benefits for brain health and cognitive function. In part two, we'll deep dive into muscle health, inflammation, longevity, and exactly how to dose it. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and let's get started. Before we get into autoimmune specific benefits, let's make sure we're all on the same page about what creatine actually is. Creatine is a naturally occurring compound that your body makes from 3 amino acids, glycine, arginine, and methionine. Your liver, kidneys, and pancreas work together to produce it. You also get creatine from foods, mainly from red meat and fish. Here's the thing. Your body stores creatine in your muscles and brain as something called phosphocreatine. Think of it as your body's rapid response energy reserve system. Every cell in your body runs on ATP, that's adenosine triphosphate, which is basically your cellular currency for energy. When you use ATP, it becomes ADP, and this is where creatine becomes your best friend. It helps rapidly regenerate ATP from ADP, especially during high demand situations. For those of us with autoimmune conditions, our bodies are constantly working overtime. Our immune systems are in overdrive, inflammation is elevated, and that means our energy demands are through the roof. This is where creatine supplementation can really shine. Let's talk about one of the most important concepts, creatine as an energy buffer. If you're living with an autoimmune disease, whether that's rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Hashimoto's, multiple sclerosis, or any other condition, you know that fatigue isn't just being a little tired. It's bone-deep exhaustion that can make even simple tasks feel impossible. Here's what's happening at the cellular level. When your immune system is chronically activated, your cells are burning through ATP like crazy. Inflammation is metabolically expensive. Your mitochondria, those little powerhouses in your cells, are working overtime just to keep up with demand. This is where creatine acts as a buffer. By maintaining higher levels of phosphocreatine in your cells, you're essentially keeping a reserve tank of quick energy available. When your cells need ATP fast, creatine helps deliver it. Studies have shown that creatine supplementation can improve physical performance and reduce fatigue, particularly in situations where the body is under metabolic stress. And let's be real, chronic autoimmune inflammation is absolutely a state of metabolic stress. Here's something really exciting. Emerging research suggests that creatine may enhance exercise tolerance, specifically in people with chronic fatigue. If you've been stuck in that cycle where you're too tired to exercise, but you know movement would help you feel better, creatine might help break that cycle by giving your cells an extra energy support they need to tolerate activity. One study published in the Journal of International Society of Sports Nutrition found that creatine supplementation improved cellular energy production and reduced markers of cellular stress. While this wasn't specific to autoimmune populations, the mechanism is highly relevant to anyone dealing with chronic inflammation. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention, creatine and brain health. Your brain is about 2% of body weight, but uses about 20% of your energy. And guess what? Your brain stores creatine too, especially in areas responsible for memory, learning, and cognitive processing. Brain fog is one of those frustrating symptoms of autoimmune disease. It's that feeling where you can't find words, you forget what you walked into a room for, or you just feel like you're thinking through molasses. Research has shown that creatine supplementation can improve cognitive function, particularly under conditions of mental fatigue or sleep deprivation. One fascinating study found that creatine improved working memory and intelligence test scores, especially in people who were under stress or not getting optimal nutrition. And speaking of sleep deprivation, let's be honest, how many of us with autoimmune conditions actually get quality, restorative sleep consistently? Whether it's pain, inflammation, medications, or anxiety keeping us up, poor sleep is almost part of the package. Here's where it gets really interesting. Creatine may improve your resilience to sleep deprivation. Research has shown that people who are sleep deprived, creatine supplementation helps maintain cognitive performance better than a placebo. It won't replace good sleep, nothing can, but it may help you function better on those rough nights when quality sleep just isn't happening. Now the muscle-brain connection. We used to think of muscles and brains as separate systems, but now we know they communicate consistently through something called myokines. These are signaling molecules released by the muscle tissue. When you maintain muscle mass and muscle function, you're actually supporting brain health. Creatine supports both sides of this equation. It helps preserve muscle tissue and provides direct cognitive benefits. For someone with an autoimmune condition who might be experiencing both physical weakness and cognitive difficulties, this dual action is incredibly valuable. Let's talk about something that often doesn't get discussed enough in the context of autoimmune disease: mental health. Depression and anxiety are significantly more common in people living with chronic illness. Whether it's the biological impact of chronic inflammation on brain chemistry, the psychological burden of dealing with a chronic condition, or a combination of both, it's real, it's valid, and it matters. Here's something promising. There's emerging research suggesting that creatine may reduce depression symptoms in some populations. The exact mechanisms aren't fully understood yet, but it appears to be related to supporting brain energy metabolism and possibly affecting neurotransmitter function. Some studies have shown that creatine supplementation, particularly when added to standard antidepressant treatment, may enhance the effectiveness of those medications. One study specifically looked at women with major depressive disorders and found that adding creatine to their SSRI medication led to faster and more robust improvements in depression symptoms compared to the medication alone. Now, let me be absolutely clear. Creatine is not an antidepressant, and it should never be replaced with mental health treatment. But as part of a comprehensive approach that includes appropriate therapy, medication if needed, social support, and lifestyle factors, creatine may offer some additional support for mood and mental well-being. For those of us managing autoimmune conditions who are also dealing with depressive and low mood, this potential benefit is worth considering and discussing with your healthcare team. Now let's talk about who might benefit most from creatine supplementation, because not everyone starts from the same baseline. Vegetarians and vegans. If you follow that plant-based diet, listen up. This is especially relevant for you. Since creatine is primarily found in animal products like meat and fish, vegetarians and vegans typically have lower baseline levels of creatine in their muscles and brain. Research has consistently shown that vegetarians and vegans tend to respond more dramatically to creatine supplementation than omnivores. You're essentially filling a bigger gap, so the benefits may be more noticeable, particularly for energy, cognitive function, and muscle performance. If you're plant-based and managing an autoimmune condition, creatine supplementation becomes even more worth considering as part of your support strategy. Women and creatine research. Women have been significantly underrepresented in creatine research. Like so many areas of sports nutrition and supplementation research, most studies have historically been done primarily on young men. But here's the good news. Emerging data on women and creatine is really promising. Recent research is showing that women may actually have unique benefits from creatine supplementation, particularly related to bone density support, especially important post-menopause, mood and mental health, cognitive function, maintaining muscle mass during hormonal changes. Some researchers are even exploring whether creatine might help with the symptoms related to the menstrual cycle and menopause, though this research is still early stages. The takeaways? If you're a woman with an autoimmune condition, don't let the historical lack of research on women discourage you from considering creatine. The emerging data suggests you may benefit just as much, if not more, than men. All right, friends, let's recap what we've covered today in part 1. We talked about what creatine is and how it works as an energy buffer, essentially giving your cells a reserve tank of quick energy when they need it most. We explored the cognitive benefits, including improved brain function, resilience to sleep deprivation, and support for that frustrating brain fog so many of us experience. We discussed the emerging research on creatine for depression and mood support, and we talked about who might benefit most, especially those of you who are plant-based or women who've been left out of the traditional research. In part 2, we're going to dive into how creatine helps preserve muscle mass, especially crucial if you're on steroids, its effects on inflammation and cellular health, bone density support, longevity and healthy aging, metabolic benefits including glucose support, exactly how to dose creatine, important safety considerations and who should not take it. So make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on so you don't miss part 2. It's going to be packed with practical, actionable information. If you're finding this helpful so far, give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below.